Hey there everyone, Tipsy Spazzy here, and welcome to what is essentially a TLDR summary of sorts for the video series of the 2019 Discovery Freelancer Let's Play. Now, for those of you who aren't really aware of the situation, a small recap is in order. So, the footage that I used in the previous episodes for that Let's Play was shot in the 2018 late December period, after which I started encountering connectivity issues with our server I couldn't get on. And I made a few episodes depicting the adventures of Gregory Oliver, our Bretonian war refugee, and I was very glad to see that the project itself received quite a few likes, and it was generally just liked by you. And the major issue that I encountered was that the last few videos of that footage ended up being corrupted somehow. So the video was pixelated, and it had huge stuttering and black frames every few seconds, and was basically unusable for the rest of the Let's Play. Now, my biggest mistake at the time was to keep putting off contacting the players that I encountered during this footage and ask them if I could recreate the encounter on my own server just for the sake of the video. Now, of course, it became a little bit too late to do so, and so I officially cancelled the Let's Play not too long ago. But that being said, I did read your comments on the matter, and yes, I do agree that the least I could do is to provide a small summary of what happened during that last few episodes, and to provide a small closure as to how the whole thing ends for now, of course, keeping in mind that I could probably pick up this whole series at some point later on. Now, this video is not going to be as in-depth as the previous ones, and the footage used are just a part of the file that isn't corrupt, and it's just there for the sake of having a video at all. We left off Oliver being thoroughly disgusted by the first experience of life outside the capital planet and the safety of New London, where he slaved away for the sake of a wealthy cargo train captain, while they themselves were enjoying the comforts that only a ship of that size can have. It was a rather straightforward and blunt reminder for Oliver that earning honest money is not going to be easy, and as Oliver departs from the field, he promises himself that he's never going to do this ever again, that instead there is a salvaged sunburst waiting for him on the Freeport. Now, the astute of you might probably already notice the fact that in-game there is no sell point for a sunburst in the Omegas, so basically what happened here is that at my first overall idea for Oliver was he needed to get to Liberty, but obviously he couldn't go through the war zone. But as you can see in this video, the issue is that I did not meet anyone along the way from Bretonia to Rhineland to Liberty, and even when I got to Liberty, there were just no player interactions for me to work with. So after I visited Pennsylvania and got the ship from Planet Erie and flew all the way back to New Berlin, again without any encounters, I made simply the choice to retcon the whole trip. For me, Oliver brought that ship from Freeport whatever, and used the gate pass codes on it and made his way towards the heart of Rhineland. Now, something you must understand is that in order to quickly summarize Greg's adventure, which usually would have taken me 2 full episodes to do, is to basically explain how he morally degrades, his slow descent into the morally gray area of the world of freelancers that we tend to take for granted when designing our characters these days. And the start of this journey saw him being outright told by a worker belonging to a multi-billion spacefaring company that, yeah, he should totally bring supplies to a very well-established criminal element. But it's only after he reaches Rhineland that he actually sees the world how it actually is. And it starts off with a public execution of a civilian transport by the hands of the RNC. Now, the funny thing here is that this whole situation was a purely out-of-roleplay one. I came around with a player on dock from New Berlin with apparently forbidden cargo, in which case this was criminals, and the RM official out of roleplay mentioned that the player in question is having some sort of problems trying to sell it, and we can actually see that when the server kicks him for cheating. Now, obviously, that once the player logged back in, he was reluctant to try to sell it again for the fear of getting kicked again, and so he undocked, upon which the RNC just wastes the guy. Now, as a player, I know full well what just happened here, and the whole encounter was due to an inconsiderate jerk who thought that he can behave like a server admin because he was in the most powerful ship out of the ones around. But that does not really stop Greg from going like, "Christ, you just killed the dude," before one of the players decides to tickle the obviously angry capital ship shields, upon which they react with as much hostility as you kind of expect it to. Now, of course, Greg is using a ship that he can easily use to catch any of these participants, and so he kind of none too subtly informs the captain that he can be of help. Because if you see a local military abusing their power, it might as well be a good idea to stay on their good side. After all, a sense of morality is only useful if you kind of profit from it as well. Now, the stupidity of this situation only degrades over time, but what we're actually looking for here is the encounter that happens after that, when a new contact on the radar makes the RNC shift their priorities to catch an artifact smuggler. Seeing the potential profit, Ollie is very quick to join the hunt, though in this case, the only thing he needs is a scan of the ship, which he happens to get. A ton of artifacts, which are apparently destroyed by the ship's captain before the RNC or the RM are within scanning range. "Empty hold," the Flieger states, to which Greg agrees, only to state that he does have video evidence, though it seems that our protagonist has decided that all of these people are jerks and cretins in one way or another, so upon saying so, he swiftly opens a direct transmission to the Republican ship and states that he might have not gotten that scan of this hold. After all, cash transfers tend to screw their scans sometimes, right? To which the smuggler is very quick to agree. Now, sadly, this is where the video footage becomes pretty much unusable, so the continuation of this mess can be basically summarized that the Flieger was rather upset that I lost the scans, but before he can actually start executing me for it, it kind of turns out that one of the Freelancer transports that got shot decides to switch to their RNC character to teach the other RNC that one certain meme about bigger fish that Star Wars has engraved in us. I'm fully aware that without an actual video, the rest of this is kind of boring to listen to, so I'll be very quick about it. The encounter with the smuggler has pretty much established to Greg that someone with that kind of money kicking around to pay him off is probably doing much better than he is right now, so obviously he is the best role model right now. So after spending a few days around the local shipyards in order to obtain a better, larger cargo ship, he waits to find another RM member before approaching them with this rather interesting question. That he and his non-existing friends are planning to ambush outcast smugglers, but he needs to find the best choke point for it. That he was curious to know if the RM knew of such a good spot where Oliver can be such a productive member of society at. Well, needless to say, this did not sound fishy at all for the RM, so they outright told Oliver not only where the jump holes are in the Sigmas, but also how to get to Alpha. And once that is all said and done, Oliver basically just tips his non-existing hat and disappears into the Omicrons in order to become a smuggler. And that's basically where I left it off for now. Now again, I realize that I shouldn't have put this off for such a long time, but in truth, by the time I got my connection to the server working again, I could not really shake the feeling that a project like this could have probably be much more fun when Disco was a little bit younger. For me, the community is what makes it fun, but Disco as a freelancer server has become what someone smarter than me referred to as a player versus player roleplay server, where all the meaningful attempt of any sort of roleplay is motivated to one-up someone else or someone's clique, and it's simply not an appealing environment for me. Anyway, you guys asked, and I deliver. This is how the story of Gregory Oliver ends for now. Maybe if I wait another year to give Disco another chance, things might, be changed for the better, and I genuinely hope they will, but until then, it's time to put this Let's Play to rest. This was Spazzy Dragon aka Syndromes. Fly safe.